This is part one of a two-part Bravo Weekly News episode. Check back in your feed to find part two. There was just so much Bravo news in the last week or so, and all crazy big stories that I had to split it into two parts. So this part, I am going to be focusing on Monique returning to the Real Housewives of Potomac, Britt Eadie's lawsuit against Bravo and NBC Universal, and her not showing up to the reunion, Paige leaving Summer House, Lexi leaving Summer House, and other Summer House news as well. Oh my God, so much going on. So stay tuned for part two. It'll be uploaded to your feed shortly after. Make sure you refresh. And if you are looking for bonus episodes and ad-free news episodes, head to patreon.com/Bravo and Botox. Enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Bravo Papers, a safe space for all us Bravo fans who love to analyze, deconstruct, and talk about our favorite Bravo shows ad nauseum. So join me, Bravo and Botox, and we'll catch up on all the Bravo news and read way too much into our favorite shows and Bravo celebrities. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Bravo Papers, Bravo Weekly News, here with your host, Emily, also known as Bravo and Botox, here to talk about the insane amount of Bravo news this week. I mean, like, the news is newsing. I almost was like, am I going to have too much? Like, I was like, how do I fit everything into this episode? And, usually I include like some littler stories, I guess. And I just can't do that this week because the big stories are taking over. Bravo was like, let me just dump everything on everyone all at once in 1 week and make everyone's heads explode. And then, the 2 weeks prior, there's been like nothing. But it's like they always do this. Like when it rains, it pours, I guess. But it's crazy. It is insane. Like, just to have a quick list, like they release the OC trailer. Monique is returning to Potomac. Britt is suing Bravo. Also didn't go to the reunion. It looks like Kenya's returning to Atlanta. Paige is leaving Summer House. Lexi was fired. She's not coming back. Like I'm even missing stuff. There's more, isn't there? Oh yeah, Rachel Zoe is returning to Bravo on the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. It's just BravoCon tickets went on sale. It's a lot. There's a lot happening. Okay, so without further ado, let's get into it. Now, all the things that I just listed, like, are huge things, but I am going to start with one that I don't even necessarily think is, like, for a lot of people, the biggest one, but for me, it is. And I think for a lot of people, especially Potomac fans, it is. This is the one I was the most shocked by. Like, I thought that, like, Paige leaving Summer House, I saw that coming. Like, the writing was on the wall. I think a lot of us suspected that. There were Dumois blinds. And it also just seemed like, she was kind of over it. So that one I wasn't, it was still like, oh my God, because it was real. But it wasn't like crazy, Britt Eadie not showing up to the reunion was a shock. That shocked me. Her suing shocked me. But, and just when I thought nothing could top that, Monique returning to Potomac to me is the most shocking news. Because if you are a Potomac fan and you have followed this show, number one of the biggest, most controversial things ever to happen on Real Housewives, not just of Potomac, but on any franchise across all shows, was the fight between Candace and Monique. It will go down as maybe one of the most contentious things to ever happen on reality TV in terms of what it did to the audience. The audience was so split on this. The discourse online was just like, it went on for years, people fighting about it. Like, whether, quote unquote, Candace was asking for it, whether like is violence ever acceptable? Did Candace like started, like where was her hand? Like people were like analyzing it like frame by frame, who touched whose hand was that, but then the wine glass, but then Monique thought that she was splashed by her, but really it was from this. And then it just went on forever. And people are still arguing about it. Like to this day, a Reddit thread will appear because somebody out there is watching Potomac for the first time or whatever, and they'll be like, okay, so let me get you guys' opinions. And they maybe weren't in it when it was like live and happening. So therefore, they maybe don't know how toxic it was, and they'll bring it up. And the next thing you know, it's like everybody's fighting again. And then it's like, even like all these years on Potomac since Monique has left, every single season, I have to go on Twitter getting the tweets, and I have to read again a million tweets from people, not literally, obviously. Where's Zach? What America? What happened to hyperbole? Okay. So I have to read like a million tweets, and they're again like people bringing up Monique again. See, this is why Monique couldn't blah, blah, blah with Candace, and this is the problem with Candace, and blah, blah, blah. Or like, oh, people can't handle Candace and she deserves more. And like it has just never ended. And I do think it was one of the most argued about topics in Bravo, like fan history. I'm trying to think of like some of the most like contentious debates. That would be a fun topic for like a bonus episode. Like the most contentious, like Carol versus Bethany was one. People still fight about that. Yeah, definitely Candace versus Monique was a huge one. Like there's some that are like huge controversies, but there wasn't that much like debate around them. Like Scandival was like a huge controversy, but for the most part, it was like people were like, Sandoval sucks, right? So it wasn't like that. However, there were debates surrounding that scandal that became crazy. But yeah, I still like off the top of my head, I can't think of one that was as controversial as this. So the announcement of Monique coming back is insane. It's insane. Like I cannot fathom what they are thinking. And I just want to get ahead of this right now. You don't have to agree with me because I know that there are some listening right now who are Monique fans who are happy about this. Congratulations. I'm very happy for you. Now, that being said, I don't care. Like, you don't have to agree with me. I'm not happy about it. I think it's a mistake, and I'm not going to pretend that I think she should be back on the show. And by the way, her violence towards Candace, is it part of the reason I don't want her back? Yeah, but it's actually probably like low on my list of reasons. I have much higher on the list reasons of why I think she should not be back on the show, which I'll get into. But a few things I'm going to say is that, and this is my number one reason. My number one reason is that Monique has a lot of stans. And generally, I find Monique stans to be toxic on social media and in the discourse of the show. And it was, once she was gone, it took even some time to kind of wash out that toxicity, for lack of a better term. And I think after a while, the show was still toxic because Giselle, etc. And I'm not saying like Giselle and Ashley and Robin are innocent, not at all, because they were the big driving force for a lot of it too. But I do think that it brought some toxic discourse to the fandom. And I think that because of what happened with Monique and Candace, it became such a thing to the point where the fandom was very split. And I think as long as Monique was on the show, that was never going to go away. Now, once they got rid of Candace, it helped. Because, and as much as like I hate to admit this, because like I did enjoy Candace on the show, but I have to say that, I do think that the people who hated Candace and loved Monique kind of settled down once Candace was off the show. because, that was kind of their like, let me hold on to this. Like every time Candace was doing anything annoying or was in an argument with someone, like when, her and Mia were throwing lettuce at each other, it was like, let's rehash the Monique Candace thing. Or it would be like, see what Candace just did there? That's evidence that she deserved the whooping that she got from Monique all those years ago. So I think Candace leaving and Monique leaving was actually kind of the best case scenario, even though if you want me to really get into it, which I'm not going to right now, but just to give you the abridged version, really all of this was Giselle and Robin's fault. I'm just saying, if you really go back, if you really go back to season 5, to all the seasons, really all of this revolved around Monique wanting to be one of the cool girls. She wanted to be accepted so badly by Giselle and Robin. Like, that's the truth. And it wasn't happening. And, you know, and again, long story short, it ends up culminating in her versus Candace, which really the original issue Monique had was more because of Giselle and Robin. And again, that's why I'm not that surprised to see her as a friend of hanging out with Giselle, because I think that's what she always wanted. Like, to me, like, yes, did she come after Giselle and have her like infamous binder moment and call Giselle out, etc.? She did, but it was a like, I hate you because you don't want me. Like, she wanted always that acceptance. Like, whether she should have or not, whether you think that whatever her motives are for that, that's true. I'm sorry. Case in point, one of the pictures today, the picture is, the cast with Monique there, and Monique and Giselle are standing next to each other and like have their arms around each other. So just saying. Okay. Anyways, it's and I do think that, in that moment, Giselle and Robin kind of used Candace to get Monique off the show, because that was pretty easy to do because of what had happened. But I also do think that, that's why once Monique left and the dust settled a bit, then they turned their attention to Candace. Like, really, we know who the real problem is, but I'm getting off point here, because I'm not trying to say that this is like all that the reason I don't like, I'm making it sound like the reason I don't like Monique is not really her fault, and it's really Giselle and Robin. Giselle and Robin, I'm just saying, caused, in my opinion, they were the root cause of that fight. Now, that fight was no one's responsibility except Monique more and somewhat Candace. And, it's up to everybody to control themselves, and it's up to us how we react to others. That's no one's responsibility. And I was, fully on Candace's side when it came to what happened in that barn or whatever the fuck it was. But what I will say is that that's kind of the least of, that is a reason I don't like Monique, but there are many more. Monique is an asshole. I just have to say it. She is. I'm sorry. The not, like, I went into a lot more of this on my Patreon, but what I will say is her not for lazy moms, I just have always found that to be so offensive. The way that she acted surrounding COVID was a complete disaster. She's very, how do I say this? She's very into 5G conspiracy theories. She has some questionable situations when it comes to pets and the deaths of said pets. And there are problematic tweets. The list goes on and on. I'm not going to go into full detail today, but what I will say is that my biggest issue with her is that she would not hand over those security tapes of Michael Darby sexually assaulting a cameraman, because she had this alliance with Ashley. Okay. And there's also the drunk driving too. There's that, and the denial of it. There's a lot of things. Okay. I just overall think she's kind of an asshole. And I think that she's I think she was one of the most inauthentic people on the show. And, you know, she had her moments that she was likable and that she was fun, etc. But overall, I just found her to be just not that funny and not that fun. Like she would try to make jokes in her confessionals and then she would laugh at her own jokes and they were never that funny. She just always seemed like on edge and like uncomfortable. And again, that may not have been her own fault. That could be because of like the cliquiness of this group, I for sure. But I just also just found her to be just a little like judgy and like she thinks she's better than other people. And I don't know. I just, you know, the whole like essential oils thing, you know, the not for lazy, I can't. It's very annoying to me. Now, all that being said, there are much worse people on Bravo, like currently. There are people who have done much worse than the list of things that I just said. However, I think that a lot of people forget that it wasn't just the fight that kind of soured people on Monique. There were so many things that happened after, you know, like all that other stuff that I named, all the stuff on social media, the way she acted surrounding that whole situation was just in poor taste, to say the least. Like there was no accountability, there was no real like remorse or regret, you know, so that was also an issue. And then when she was on the whole like love and marriage thing on OWN, I didn't watch that, but from what I have heard from everyone who has watched it and I've read on Twitter and Reddit, etc., was that she's a complete nightmare on there. It actually turned a lot of her fans like against her after watching it and because she was so terrible on it. Not to mention that how much have we heard from her being like, those shows are toxic and they bring the toxicity out of me and I'll never go back to them and da 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 da. Here she is. She's back. Okay. Now she's trying to say she's like a different, changed person. She's not the same person she was. I have a strong feeling that she is. She's maybe a divorced version, so fine. So maybe that'll be a bit different. I don't know. Um, But do I think that she's changed and she's like so different and has grown? No, I don't really, to be honest. Everything I've ever heard or seen from her, every interview, every press snippet, every podcast, everything has always been woe is me, no accountability. If I looked bad on Love and Marriage, if I looked bad on Potomac, if I looked bad on this, it was always everyone else's fault and never my own. And I've never seen anything different from her since. And that's up until like very recently. So I'm not expecting like a reformed Monique on Potomac. Now, what I will say is that, and this is important, she's in a friend of position. So I do think that that makes it a little better. You know, I'm not going to be like, I'm not watching Potomac because Monique's on it. Like, no, I don't feel that strongly about it, but I'm still going to watch it, of course. But my biggest reason that I fear her coming back is because the show is finally getting to a place of fun again. The show has been like last season, the show felt lighter. You know, there was still drama, etc., but it was lighter and more fun. The reunion was one of the best reunions I have watched in years across all franchises. It was so entertaining. It was funny. It had good drama. Like it just had everything. And the discourse around it was also fun. And the discourse around Potomac has not been fun since season 4. And we are on season like 9 or 10 or whatever. So that's a long time. Okay. So we finally had, you know, some like fun with Potomac talking about it. Like my favorite thing was doing the Twitter roundups, like especially around the reunion. Like it was finally what it used to be. Not, of course, not as good as the first few seasons, because what is, but just we were headed in the right direction. So my fear with Monique coming back is that she'll make it not fun because she does just have that energy. Like, not to sound like Kyle from Summer House, but like Monique, not fun. I'm just worried that she's going to take away what we finally have gotten, and some of what we have now is because of Stacey. You know, she's kind of brought some of that. So I'm just worried that she's going to disrupt the balance and the group chemistry. But maybe she won't. Maybe because she's a friend of, maybe it'll be okay. I'm assuming she's coming in as a friend of Ashley Darby, because what else would make sense? I hope that she is in it in a smaller role. And I hope that she is bringing a lighter kind of side, and that it's not going to be, you know, what it was. Like, we don't need to relive season 5. We don't need that kind of shit all over again. We just don't need that. So my overall conclusion is I'm going to stay cautiously optimistic. Okay. If I'm going to tell you the honest to God truth, it's that I think this is a mistake, and I think it's going to end up backfiring. Whether it happens right away this season or down the road, I just think it will. I just have a feeling, but I'm going to remain cautiously optimistic that as long as she comes in a friend of role, it might be okay. But I have to say, I am shocked by this. Mostly because I never thought Monique would want to come back. Like, she seems so soured on the show and on reality TV in general. But I also think that Monique is the type who has to have the last word. And so far, every time she's had the last word on reality TV, it's been not good for her. So there is a part of me that thinks that she has this thing inside of her where she needs to prove to everyone that, like, she's good, she's likable, she was never the problem. Like, I really think she, like, is kind of desperate to do that. And I think that's why I think that, and I think a check that she needs is, you know, is all part of it. I think it's all kind of intertwined, let's just say. But listen, some people are very excited about her returning. Some people are not happy at all. I haven't seen many in the middle. And again, that's what Monique will bring. It's not going to be a like even middle ground type of opinion. But yeah, I'm assuming that this season's filming without Karen is maybe suffering a bit, and that they need something. That's kind of like, because to me, that's the only explanation. Because I'm like, why else would they go down this path? Like, I wouldn't expect her to want to do it. I also wouldn't have expected them to ask her. So the fact that they did and that they're doing this shows that maybe they got nothing. That's the only other thing I can think of. I mean, oh God, we will see. We'll see what happens. Now, there is also another little piece of news from Potomac before we go on to something else, which is that it seems that Giselle and Wendy have unfollowed each other. So there's that. So I don't know. I mean, it seemed like they were finally getting along last season, but of course, you know, they couldn't leave well enough alone. Something happened. So we have, you know, Monique returning. We have Giselle and Wendy are at odds. And they're all photographed together at the Potomac Pride. And like I said, you know, they seem to be happy and having a good time. Kieran's there too. Wendy, Stacey, they're all there. And oh yeah, and one last thing I forgot is that Candace did tweet soon after the announcement was made about Monique returning, and she said, "God don't like ugly, and you never win when you play dirty." Ooh, okay. Well, we're assuming that that's in reference to Monique, but we shall see. Okay, let's go on to the Real Housewives of Atlanta, who have also insane news, obviously. So this was the other moment that had my jaw on the floor, was me opening up the Real Housewives of Atlanta reunion seating chart and seeing no Britt Edie. Now, like, the lawsuit is a shock, but this was almost more shocking, probably because I didn't know that that she was going to file when I saw the seating chart, right? So I was just thinking, like, this girl just skipped the reunion? Like, and then the lawsuit news came like 2 hours later, and it all starts to make sense. But so besides the fact that Brit is not on this seating chart, though, this seating chart is a travesty. Like, somebody at Bravo needs to be fired over this. I don't know who, but first of all, we have Portia and Shamia in the top seats. Listen, Bravo, whoever, this Shamia Portia thing is not Bethany versus Carol. It's not Lisa Vanderpump versus Kyle. This is not Nene and Cynthia. Like, this is not a big enough deal, this falling out, that they both deserve top seat. Okay. Or even Phaedra and Candy. It's not even that level of like friendship falling out. Okay. Those were big friendship falling outs that deserved, and not even all of those that I named got first seats, by the way. This was like they had a little miscommunication. They were pissed at each other, and then they resolved it, as far as I know. Now, something else could happen in the rest of the season, but based on their social media interactions lately, it doesn't even seem like they're in that bad of a place. Okay, so get the fuck out of here with that. So on the left, we have Portia, Phaedra, and then Cynthia. Why Phaedra has a second seat? She just got here like 5 minutes ago, and she's so far done nothing and besides make some snarky ass comments. And then in the preview for the rest of the season, like the mid-season trailer, there was nothing from her in that either. The only thing from her was like making out with some guy and again making like her little like shady confessionals. So why is she second? And then Cynthia. I guess because Portia has no one else. I don't know. Like, I actually think that Shamia should be on that side as well. Like, I think Shamia should have been second to Portia. But are they that divided at this point? Like, but I just feel like Bravo's trying to make fetch happen with this like Portia versus Shamia, and it's not. I just think it's not a thing. Now, I do think that if Brit had shown up to the reunion, it would have been Portia, Brit, Phaedra, Cynthia, and that would have made a bit more sense. So I'll give them a little bit of forgiveness there. But I cannot forgive them for this next thing, which is that Drew is at the end on the right side of the couch. Fuck off with that. Like, I'm not even saying you have to be a Drew fan or that you have to like Drew like as much as I do. And I'm not delusional. Like, I'm not like a Drew stan who's like, everything she does is amazing. I like Drew because I think she's like delightfully delusional. And I enjoy the fact that she has like little self-awareness and she lies about stupid shit and then gets caught. Like, I find her funny. And, but that being said, and I have not thought every season that Drew's been on, oh, Drew deserves first chair. No, I don't think she's ever deserved it. But this year, she at least deserved first or second. I could have been okay with second, but to be at the end is insanity. Like, her and Angela, I'm sorry, her and Angela carried this season, period. Okay. The only other excuse for them to not be further up would be like if Kenya and Britt were actually there, which they weren't. Okay. Instead, you have Shamia. Like Shamia started strong, and I know they tried to make her like the new, like one of the new like main characters, but it didn't work out. And by the time this reunion filmed, which was last week, that writing is on the wall and it's pretty clear. Just go look at the fan reactions. Like, everybody is talking about how Shamia's a flop. So what, like, you can adjust your seating plan up until 5 minutes before, Bravo, just so you know. Okay. So then they have, okay, so Shamia and then Angela and then Kelly and then Drew. Why is Kelly above Drew? Kelly should be below Drew. So should Shamia. It should be Angela, Drew, Shamia, and then Kelly. And you can even flip Kelly above Shamia if you want. I don't give a fuck. But what I will say is that the fact that Drew is fourth on that side is the last is I'm sorry. She's bringing the most. Her and Angela are bringing the most in terms of personal storylines. They have the most engaging, insane stuff happening in their lives. Like Drew is giving with the divorce. They literally are featuring her ex-husband on the show and are giving him confessionals. He's fucking locking her out of the house and all this other shit. Like, I don't understand. What is Portia giving us about her divorce? Nothing. Like, wah wah. And I'm not even saying it's like fully her fault, but that's just a fact. And then Angela's giving us like drama about her family, like fucking left, right, and center. So it's just crazy to me. Like, yes, Shamia has shared vulnerable stuff with the whole like journey with her daughter and all that. Fine. But if I'm going to be honest, it's not as entertaining as it's not as like dramatic as what the other ones are giving us. So this is crazy. Like, I actually think Kelly should be above Shamia, the more I think about it. Okay, so now that I have talked about the seating chart for like an hour, let's let's talk about Britt Edie not even showing up. This is crazy. Now, again, it does make sense knowing about the lawsuit. So I can't talk about one without the other, so let's get into it. So Britt Edie sues Bravo for defamation, sexual harassment, and this is 1 year after explicit poster drama. Okay, so I'm going to read from the article so we can just get the facts and then we'll talk about it. So, okay, so she's gearing up for a serious legal battle, says TMZ. She's suing Bravo for defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, sexual harassment, and more over the drama that stemmed from the whole Kenya Moore thing. Or Kenya Moore, allegedly displaying explicit pictures of her at her salon opening last year. Okay, so she's also suing NBC Universal and the production companies, which is Truly Original and Endemol Shine North America, claiming that they knowingly misled the public into believing that Moore did, in fact, distribute photos of her in the midst of a sexual act last June. In her lawsuit, Edie claims the woman on the posters was not her, but Bravo falsely yet unmistakably implied that the graphic sexual photograph depicted her, later airing cast members' reactions to the ordeal in an April episode of the show's 16th season. So Edie claims that Bravo knowingly contributed to a hostile work environment. I mean, so did you. I just saying. Like, did you not start that by threatening a cast member with a gun? I just want to put that out there because I'm not going to let Britt try to pretend that she did not start. This started as a normal, regular season of Housewives with Kenya throwing a little bit of petty shade about an engagement ring that I actually don't even think was supposed to be shade, but then it turned into it because Britt had a stupid reaction. But then Britt is the one who made it toxic. And if that hadn't happened, none of this other stuff would be even going on right now. I just want to point that out. Okay. So Edie claims that they knowingly, oh wait, I said that already, and sexually harassed her by subjecting her to unwelcome, offensive, and sexualized behavior and comments by requiring her to show up to work after she experienced what she calls a gendered attack. So who is she saying the unwelcome, offensive, and sexualized behavior and comments? Like, who is she saying that came from? Oh, is that like Drew? Is that Drew when she was like, did you ever sell it? The cat? Sorry. Okay. Is that what she means? I guess that must be what she means. Like stuff like that, I guess. She is now asking Bravo for the immediate removal of the episode from public access and at least $20 million in damages. Okay, so the other thing is that Britt went on her Instagram and with create mode, she posted this: as everyone is now aware, I'm not attending the reunion. This was my decision. The events of this season have devastated me. And while I cannot say much right now, I do want to set the record straight about one thing. The graphic sexual photos surrounding the events in episode 5. that photo was not me. Like, what? So what have we been talking about? Who was it? Now we really don't know who this hoe is, okay? Remember how it said on the poster, who is this hoe? Now we really don't know who it is, okay? That was a joke, everyone. Just relax. Okay. As the episode, where's Zach? Hyperbole, America. Okay. As the episode makes clear, I did not see the photo at the time. Rather, I was made aware of the photo being presented at the event, and based on what I was told, assumed that it was somehow a photo of me, which is why I reacted in the way that I did. I do not know who was in that photo, but upon seeing it for the first time recently, I know it was not me. I look forward to seeking accountability and moving past this dark part of my life, Brit. Oh my God. Okay, so here's what I'm confused about. I thought that Brit had said that she knew people who, maybe I'm misremembering though, but I thought she said she knew people who were there who saw the picture and that it was her. So that, like, I feel like she said that somewhere. Maybe not on the show, but like in another interview or something. And that she was embarrassed that like they had seen it at the salon. I don't know. Am I crazy? No, I don't think I'm crazy. Like I feel like she said that, because there was a point where she said that the people who attended the event were blowing up her phone. So even that, like, so none of them realized it wasn't you? Like in the sex picture? I don't know. That's a little like suspect. Cause now I'm starting, okay, so here now I'm going down the conspiracy road of like, did is she now wanting everyone to know that there is no that there was no picture or is no picture of her doing the sexual act? Like, is she trying to kind of walk it back? I don't know. So, or there's that, like there's that it was her, but now she's trying to say it wasn't because she thinks that'll kind of like erase that sort of like negative perception of her, of there being a picture of her doing whatever. And, maybe like her and her husband sat down and for some reason think this is like the best road to go down. Or she legitimately thinks it wasn't her based on things she's been told. Right. Because it's like, I guess Kenya could have pulled like a random picture from the internet, like from Google or something, and then just like that of someone who maybe looked similar to Brit. I don't know, just to like, and because she knew that Bravo would blur it out. I don't know, but that doesn't. I don't know. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me, unless the picture was like so crappy or just like of bad quality that it's like, could have been her, and maybe even Kenya thought it was her. And it was like, I'm kind of thinking like the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. Like maybe Kenya really thought this was her, but it was like kind of hard to tell. And that's why maybe people who were there like just kind of assumed because Kenya said it was. But then now that some time has passed, maybe Britt finally, like, I don't know why it took this long for her to see it. And now she realizes it wasn't her. I don't know. Either way, she does. Listen, I don't like Britt, but she does have somewhat of an argument here in the sense of like, if it wasn't her, or even if they were unsure, that should be communicated to her. Okay. Instead of it like getting away and like running away as this big storyline. So fine, I will give her that. And, them kind of like assuming it was her and not like maybe fact checking it before they even showed this episode, that is negligence. Okay. Now, that being said, I do think though that Bravo tried to kind of amend the situation and make things better for Brit by firing Kenya. So, there is a part of me that was kind of like, well, I do think that, I think they were trying to avoid a lawsuit, because I do think that, you know, they don't want a lawsuit like this. And I think they were trying to avoid it by firing Kenya and leaving Brit, which is why a lot of us were like, well, what the fuck? Brit should have been fired too, because she made this pistol comment, but why didn't she get fired? But then a lot of people were like, well, look, they don't want a lawsuit because, maybe this is revenge porn, like whatever, maybe it breaks some of the Georgia laws, whatever. So I could understand that. Like, I could understand why they kept Brit and maybe fired Kenya just to appease Brit and to avoid being sued. But now here they are getting sued anyways, which is interesting. I think, if you want my real thoughts on why she's doing this, I don't think it's because she suddenly realized the picture wasn't her. Maybe that's part of it. Okay. So, but let's forget about that for a second. I think that going into this season, all of this stuff had already happened, right? Like, the season airs later, and this season aired much later because there was all these delays in filming, and then they were bringing Phaedra back, and it was a disaster. So there was a big, apparently the production of this was a mess, right? So I do kind of think that Brit wouldn't be doing this right now if the season had gone differently. Like, I think she was satisfied with the punishment of, like, Kenya being fired and her getting kind of like a victim narrative. But I also think that because of her own just flawed personality, she couldn't even maintain the audience's sympathy for that long. So I think she kind of assumed while they were filming that, okay, Kenya was fired, I'm the victim, the audience is going to take my side. Maybe she thought that because of, you know, maybe she was told some things or things were implied from production. Maybe she thought the pistol thing was never going to air, right? I don't know, but I do think that she thought this season was going to go in a different direction. And I think she thought she was going to be liked. I don't think she realized that how many people would turn against her once they saw the footage of her threatening Kenya with a pistol. And I also don't think that she thought that her victim kind of sympathy that she got would last like 5 seconds. Like, it did not last long. She got a little bit of sympathy, in audience reaction the day that that specific episode aired. But most of it wasn't even that big, like, sympathy for Brit. It was more like, Kenya, why would you make such a stupid move? Like, more of it was like criticizing how Kenya is usually really smart in the moves that she makes, and this was so dumb. Like, how could she not see that this was a mistake? Why did you make your hair salon event about someone else? What the fuck were you thinking? So I kind of feel like Brit didn't get the reaction that she wanted. And then on top of it, the season continues, and it's just blunder after blunder for Brit. There's the event, which ends her event at the golf course or whatever, that ends up being one of the most embarrassing, cringe events in like Housewives history. And so there's that. And then there's also her friends. She's going to have a falling out with two more cast members. Angela already doesn't really like her. She's going to have a fallout with Shamia. She's going to have a fallout with Kelly, and Kelly's like her bestie. They're both new together. She's been embarrassed multiple times on the show. So it's like, ugh, like, who do you really like? Yeah, I guess she has Portia, and like, I can't say Phaedra, but she has Portia, but that's like one person. Granted, a strong person in terms of the presence of the show, but one person. So it's kind of like, okay, things did not go how I thought. The audience doesn't like her. She's the butt of every joke every week on Twitter. People don't even use her name. They call her all these other nicknames. Like, this is what, like, I just feel like she was fully taking part in the show. Like she was more than willing to make comments, about like when the Married to Medicine thing was happening, about like, oh, how dare they say that about our show? Like she was like calling it our show. And then she was like on Watch What Happens Live, like doing her interview and telling her side of the story with Andy. She took part in the after show. She did her part of the after show was with Phaedra and Portia. She seems like so excited to be like in with frickin' frack. So it's kind of like she's still getting, so it's like she's taken full part in the journey of like being a housewife and being on the show. So I just feel like it is a little suspect that now at the 11th hour, end of the season, she is all of a sudden doing something that will pretty much guarantee that she will never be on Housewives again. And she's a one and done. And to me, the only reason to go down this road is that the writing is on the wall. She knows she's not getting asked back because not because of even the pistol thing, but just because she's so unlikable and inauthentic. And people are talking about how she's like not housewife material. She threw this like garbage event. She seems like she's pretending she's wealthier than she is. And I think she kind of sees now that Housewives is not going to do for her what she thought. It's not going to help her launch a brand. It's not going to help her get millions of followers. It's not going to be a career where she's going to make all this money. I think she sees she's getting fired and that's it. So I do think that she's like, okay, well, if that's the future, then fuck this show. I'm not going to come to the reunion. I'm not going to come to the reunion and have basically the whole cast against me. I'm not going to come to the reunion and have to answer for the pistol thing. And on top of that, I need some money because clearly there's been some reason she's not working in insurance. And by the way, I am not even going to go down the road of it's because of what Kenya did, because from what I've heard, the whole like her insurance license being investigated and suspended was already happening. So, and that she was already in some shit with insurance fraud. So I think that this is money grab. I think this is, I know I'm going to be fired. I know I'm not going to be asked back. I know I have no future. So now I'm going to sue. I think she's known that this picture wasn't her for a while, maybe even. So yeah. Now, whether she has a case or not, I mean, clearly some lawyer thinks she has a case. Anybody can sue, obviously. But one thing I will say is that these contracts with Bravo are pretty ironclad. They are intense. You kind of sign your life away, which is why with all these like Bravo reckonings and lawsuits, like we haven't seen much progress or success with them. Like, granted, Leah's is still ongoing. Fine. We don't know what's going to happen with that, but it doesn't look that promising. But what I do think, though, is that I think Britt's got a long battle ahead of her, and I don't think she's going to get maybe necessarily what she wants out of it, especially because she so willingly kind of went along with everything after the season had wrapped, including, and like she's really hanging everything on this one assumption of like, I didn't know who was in the picture. But there are things that she has stated that might in press and in other places that might contradict that. So I'm not sure. And they are going to dig up everything. And it's going to be hard to prove the like being harassed by, castmates and stuff because again, like you're suing Bravo and that is kind of what you sign up to do, in terms of fighting with the castmates. So I don't know. I think it's going to, I don't know how much success she's going to get with this, but they still owe money to that golf course. So she's trying to get that paid off, I think. Okay. Okay. What else do we have from Atlanta? Sorry, that was really long. So Kenya, but again, it's big news. Kenya did also tweet on the day of the reunion and she said, I'm disappointed to not be a part of the RHOA 16 reunion taping today. Please, which again, couldn't they let her in at the last minute? Britt didn't show up, Kenya. Let's go. Please know I take full accountability for my actions and deeply apologize to all those affected, including Brittany, the cast, crew, guests, and viewers. I look forward to seeing you all back on Bravo soon. Kenya, she's playing her cards. She knows. See, Kenya knows as well as Britt knows that Britt is gone. Britt's burned her bridge. This is Kenya's opportunity to come back. So, yeah, she's going to take her full accountability. She's going to apologize. She's going to be humble. And yeah, listen, bring her back. I think she should come back. What she did was wrong. Yes, absolutely. But like I've said, Jax Taylor is still on my TV. So until he's not, no one has any leg to stand on here. Okay. Okay, let's go to where else are we? What else we have? Okay, one last thing. So this is also Atlanta news. So Kelly posted this. I think it was a comment. And she said, okay, finally, now Andy, please get this girl a harness so she can finally sit down and answer the question she's been avoiding. There will be no peach passes at the reunion. Oh, we'll see someone finally get held accountable at Portia. Hashtag she's a runner, she's a track star. This is in response to a video that Portia posted where she's talking about how receipts are going to be needed at this reunion and how she's going to bring the receipts and it's going to be the most truthful reunion ever. Well, that means nothing coming from you, Portia, because you're a liar. I'm sorry. You're a liar. So's Phaedra. That's why you're friends. Drew's a liar too. At least Drew lies about stupid shit that's kind of funny that she gets caught for pretty easily. You and Phaedra are like legit liars about like serious shit. So I believe, nothing that comes from you. And Team Kelly in this case. Even though Kelly's kind of annoying me the last couple episodes, she's been very like lapdog-ish, but I still have hope for her. She could turn a corner. Okay. Okay. Oh my God. We are 52 minutes in and I've only talked about 2 shows. Okay. And I haven't even talked about Summer House, which also has huge news. Okay. What is happening? Okay. Paige is leaving Summer House. She was not fired, but she is leaving on her own accord. And I do believe her. They all like to say they're leaving on their own accord. This is one of those rare ones where I think she actually is. So let me read her statement. I have a little life update for you. I've made the decision not to return to Summer House. Being part of the show has been one of the most rewarding chapters of my life. The friendships, the drama, the giggles, all unforgettable. You've seen me grow up over these last 7 summers. I'll always be beyond grateful for the memories, community, and the opportunities this wild ride has brought me. But like all good things and some bad decisions, it's time for this chapter to close. To my castmates, the fans, and my NBCU family, thank you. I never could have imagined what this journey would turn into and how many of you would be along for the ride. And you haven't seen the last of me, I promise. So much more to do together. But for now, you can always find me and Daphne in my bed. Okay. So Paige's announcement was not unexpected. Like I said, it is still, I think, a lot for people to process because she has been a main character on this show for a long time, right? So it is still like, oh my God, this is a big change. Like we need to process this change. Now, the reason it's not as shocking not as shocking as, the other 2 pieces of news I just covered is because I think the writing was on the wall in the sense of like Paige's career has really taken off and she has used the show to create a career that is self-sustained, not like self-sustaining, but is actually like successful outside of the show. And she's also created a career, and this is the most important part, that I think the show is actually detrimental to. Like, I think the show originally was good for her career because it originally helped her like launch the career and get it started. And, it got her kind of like her public profile up. It gave her like, what's it called? Like a foundation of fans that would listen to Giggly Squad or whatever, and then it grew from there. I think it had all that kind of stuff to lay the foundation, and it definitely opened up these opportunities, right? She became more well known. It gave her more followers. Then she could do more like of the fashion influencing on a bigger scale than she had originally been doing it, like all of this stuff, right? But I do think that eventually, as the career off the show becomes bigger and bigger, I do think that it gets to the point for, in certain unique cases, not in all, but in certain unique ones, this being one of them, where being on the show could actually be a hindrance to her career. Because now, if she's on the show, if you're on a reality show, you are subjected to the ups and downs. One season, you have a great season, the audience loves you. Next season, you have a terrible season, the audience hates you. You could say, do the wrong thing, everyone could turn on you, like all of these things, which is again why I think she was having an anxiety attack about breaking up with Craig, because I think she truly thought that that could impact the success of her tour and her career. I really, even if a lot of people are like, that's ridiculous, it would never impact that, doesn't matter. She was feeling that it could and having anxiety about it. Whether it's real or not is kind of irrelevant. So I do think that this kind of takes that pressure off of it. And and now she can just sort of focus on the career itself, growing that sort of career outside of Summer House, and not having to worry about the judgment of like her personal life, which is something that Paige has always been hyper sensitive about. Like, she's always been very closed off about her personal stuff. And that's why she hasn't been my favorite personally as a reality star, because I don't find her to be that open. Like, I like reality stars who are like so open and messy and don't give a fuck, like more like a Lindsay Hubbard type, and who aren't worried about looking like complete idiots and assholes and whatever, and on reality TV, because to me that's entertaining. Whereas Paige is more, contrived. She very much cares about her image. She's much more controlled about what she shares, when she shares it. Everything is planned out and calculated. And that's probably why she's been successful in her career outside the show. Right. So to me, this move makes complete sense. Like, career wise, this is a very smart move for her. I actually think it would be dumb of her to stay on the show. I think it would be like, I think leave on a high note. And that's the last that we see of you on this type of reality show. That doesn't mean she may not be on some type of different reality show in the future. Totally possible. But I do think that right now is the right time to stop. Like 100%. Or as Paige says, 1,000%. So I do. Now, I am happy about this. As many of you know, I'm not a huge fan of Paige for the reasons that I just said. Mostly I haven't liked Paige over the years because she's always gunning for Lindsay, and I have found that annoying, to say the least. But I'm glad that Paige is leaving, because I do also think that Summer House needs a change. I think the dynamics in Summer House are not working anymore, and I think this last reunion and season really proved that. And we need to get more back to the foundations of what this show once was. No, I'm not saying we need a whole bunch of influencers or something like that, because that's what we don't need. But we need more people who have nothing to lose. So that's why we also don't need influencers. So we need people who have nothing to lose. They don't already have some huge following and career that could get ruined depending on how the audience perceives them. We don't need those people. We need people who are just willing to come on, be messy, be completely like, act like assholes and stand in it, get into fights, etc., and kind of grow from there. The way that Lindsay and Kyle and all of them did from the very start. That's what we need. We need people who don't have a lot of self-awareness. So I need like, not that was, I didn't mind Lexi, like she was annoying, but she was a little too self-aware for reality TV. to me, she wasn't that different from like how Paige and Sierra are, which is like very aware of like the audience and things like that. So I need people who are not like that. I need people who will come on and just be a complete disaster. Okay. And and I do think the bed girls clique, whatever you want to call them, I think they also needed to be split up because I think they were making it hard for new people to flourish, and I think they kind of held too much power. So I think we need to kind of break things up. I would even be fine with like, you know, rebooting this cast and then having like the Kyle, Amanda, like having those people on like kind of like a New York type of show and watch their lives as like older adults. Like I don't like I could go with like a new summer house, like a new crew of people. And they've done a pretty good job of that with like it is possible. Like Southern Hospitality has done a good job of that. Like the cast is like now, they have more fame and stuff, but like they're pretty willing to be fucking messy, this cast. And a lot of them look terrible in a lot of situations and they're going with it. So that's kind of what we need on Summer House again. I really think so. Okay. So we also have found out that Lexi is gone. Now, Lexi, I think, was probably fired. I think she was probably not asked back. I think that, again, I think that her kind of what's it called? Preoccupation with how she would be viewed by the audience is what really bit her in the ass more than anything. Um, because, despite the popular opinion of she put no effort into making friends, she was just off Jesse. I don't like agree with that because I think she made friends with everyone except Paige and Sierra, and that's only two people. But and she was brought in as Amanda's friend, and I did, there was more of a bond between them, a little bit more. It wasn't like super close, but I don't think that she was like, as closed off as everybody says that she was. But that being said, she is hyper aware of her image, and I think that's a bit of a problem. And I think we need people who don't already have a million followers on Instagram, etc. Now, that being said, that's kind of what annoys me about West and Jesse a little bit is like they weren't like that season one, but now they've quickly turned into that. So I know it's going to happen with anybody, but at the same time, we still see kind of how they are still making mistakes, even with more self-awareness. And that's what we need. So I don't know. Now, I would have been fine with Lexi having another season just so that I could see kind of how her and Jesse would like function in the same house, not in a relationship. I would have been curious to see Lexi in the house like without without Paige, like the leader of the cool girls, because I do think a lot of Lexi's downfall also was because she wanted to be part of that clique so badly and she couldn't pull it off. So I would have been curious to see that as well, but I don't know. Bravo with this show. Sometimes I feel like with Summer House, they really don't give people enough of a chance to grow. It's like if somebody doesn't have like an explosive good first season, they're just like, bye. And sometimes I'm like, give people a little bit more time. And I'm not just talking about Lexi. Like, there's a lot of people, like justice for Jules. I'll never let that go. But there's a lot of people who could have used a bit more time. Just saying. Okay. Anyways, so yeah, big changes ahead. So what's going to go forward? From what I've heard, it's going to like Lindsay will be kind of like popping in as sort of like a friend of, like maybe doing visiting. It seems like Kyle and Amanda will still be there because as Amanda said on Watch What Happens Live, Kyle's having a midlife crisis. I'll get to that in a minute. Also, it seems like Sierra's going to be back. I think West and Jesse are going to be back. Andy pretty much said that on Watch What Happens Live. And they need to be really thoughtful about who else they cast around these people if they want this show to work. Like, it's just the only way. Okay, so let's go into Watch What Happens Live because Kristen Cavallari and Amanda Petula were on Watch What Happens Live together. And a few things were discussed. But one thing that Amanda said was that, she was asked about the whole like having kids with Kyle thing. And one thing that she said was basically, you know what? I want to have kids one day, etc. But, basically I'm waiting for Kyle to like settle down. And she said, he's going through a midlife crisis right now. I think that's why he's doing the DJing. And I was like, ooh, listen, a lot of people go through midlife crises. The one thing I have learned from being in my 40s is that it happens to more people than you think. But I think a lot of times we think of it as like, oh, a midlife crisis is like some loser guy that goes out and like buys like a Corvette and like he looks like an asshole or something. You know, we think of it in a very like simplistic way when everyone acts out their midlife crises in different ways. Some people, it's like they start like doing plastic surgery, getting Botox, you know, all of a sudden like big like changes in their looks and things like that. So that's how some people do it. Some people cheat. Some people buy things that they shouldn't buy. Some people start DJ careers. Some people start doing drugs and alcohol more. Like I've seen that too. So there are different versions of it. And some people it's like a mix, right? So it's not like necessarily one thing. But I do think that she's right. Like I do think Kyle it's just not as noticeable with Kyle because he's always kind of been Kyle's always been partying and the one who wants to stay out till 4 a.m. So it's not as noticeable, but really like taking on the DJ thing, that's his way of prolonging his youth, right? He can still go out and party. He has an excuse to, oh, I have a DJ gig. I'm making money. It gives him an excuse to flirt with girls, to have, you know, the fans of the show like be like, "Oh my god, it's Kyle." Like he's got all that. Like and that's what it is. So, yeah, she's right. Um, Now Amanda also says that she fully believes the rumor about Erica Jade and Jesse hooking up, which everyone is like, "Oh my god." Yeah, duh, cuz of course he would. And then she's like, "Oh, Jesse just can't help himself." See, this is what pisses me off about some of these girls on Summer House is it's always like, you know, oh, he can't even control himself. It's Jesse. Like it's like, listen, he can have sex with Erica Jane all he wants. And as Amanda says in this interview, if Erica's into it, good for them. Fine. But like, can we stop acting like he has no control over himself and that he's like, again, it's like this like he's this little like just like puppy or he's like a dog that just acts on instinct and there's no self-control. Um she says that what else does Amanda say? Oh no, that was it. Sorry. Okay. Now the other thing is that Kristen Cavallari was also on Watch What Happens Live. And she says a few different things. But first of all, she's asked about dating Craig. Like, finally clear this up. But now that they're broken up and time has gone by, basically, she says, yes, they dated, but it was for like 2 seconds. She says that as soon as she found out that he was possibly dating Paige, she bailed out. She says the first she heard about it was that she saw a pic of Paige and Craig in New York City together. So she texted him and said, yeah, let's just be friends. And that's it. Okay. So it seems like there was some overlap. It's not clear who he was dating first. It just seems like he was, I don't know, maybe dating both of them at the same time. And that, you know, she didn't want to be involved in, you know, said love triangle. I do think a lot of it was that she probably was like, dating this guy who's like a complete mess is not good for my career right now because Kristen Cavallari was like at such a much higher level in terms of stardom at that time. Like, I actually think for her, dating Craig would have brought her down, but I think for Paige, it brought her up because they were both on Bravo and it allowed them to become like the new Bravo it couple. And then more people, you know, including like a whole other audience from the Bravo world were exposed to Paige and started to know who she was. And I think it had her name in more people's mouths. And then I do think that it also ended up helping Craig too, as we saw, because she helped him like revamp his image. So, you know, I do think that that is probably part of the reason that Kristen was like, I'm out. Now, Kristen also you know, she talks about this and then Lindsay got involved in the conversation and Lindsay reposted this interview from Watch What Happens Live and she wrote, remember when Craig screamed at me for hours on Summer House because I gave Paige the heads up about this situation? And here we are, the truth bomb. I mean, she's right. Like she did bring, I mean, the reason Craig's mad is because you brought it up on camera and it doesn't make him look good. Let's be honest. But the other thing that she left out though is that Paige weaponized this. Like, I'm sorry, but like everything that Craig did that was wrong, Paige weaponized against Lindsay to, like, I understand like defending your man, etc., but it was more of a let me weaponize so I can like take this other woman down because I don't like her. Okay, just saying. Okay, what else we got? We do have more from Summer House. So Paige has a new pajama line. It is called Daphne. It is a direct-to-consumer loungewear brand designed to be worn both in and out of bed, with price ranges from $58 for a cami to $230 for a set. Are you insane? $58 for a cami? Listen, I'm not a pajama person. Maybe there are people out there who enjoy indulging in expensive pajamas. I just am not. Like, I'm like a t-shirt, old t-shirt and underwear and whatever type of person when it comes to going, not old underwear, by the way. That sounded so wrong. You guys are like imagining me wearing like the Jessie underwear. No, but like just comfortable stuff that is not expensive, right? Like the t-shirts I wear to bed, I got it like, they're like soft, super soft, 100% cotton. I wear them every week and they are like my bedtime t-shirts. I like them. They're V-neck because I don't like anything too tight at night, like constricting me. And they breathe and they're soft and all that kind of stuff. So that's it. And they were like $20, you know? They were like 2 for 20. So I'm just kind of like, okay, I just can't imagine spending that. But I know there are some people who wear like legit pajamas, like a pajama set and all that kind of stuff. So maybe those people would like it. I don't know. Now the reason I'm even bringing this up is because there is a girl who is a pajama designer. And she says that she believes that the guy who designed and did the branding for Paige may have ripped her off. Now, she makes it very clear that she is not coming after Paige and she doesn't think that Paige knowingly did this or that Paige tried to copy her. She says, though, that the branding and the brand, what's it called? Brand image and sort of like, the kind of like press clippets that you give and the way you describe your brand, etc. She says all that is pretty much the exact same or very close to what she has, and that she had actually given her entire brand package to, guess who? Jenna Lyons. And I guess Jenna Lyons is friends with or works with this guy who is like the brand designer, etc., who is working with Paige. So she says, she gave Jenna this book that had like everything in it, like her mission statement, her brand identity, her talking points for interviews, even like the placement of the logo, like everything is the same. And that she did give all that to Jenna Lyons in the hope of, spreading her brand and like, just getting it into the right hands. And that, Jenna is close with this guy and then this guy's working with Paige and now Paige is like talking points and quotes and brand image are all the same. Now, again, some people are looking at this and like, this is a stretch. It's not the exact same, etc. I see what she's saying. It is a very similar like vibe, a similar philosophy, in terms of like how they describe it. And even like the quotes from Paige in the InStyle article are very similar to what this girl has said in like when she's been on shows promoting her brand. And like she says, like, I don't think Paige is aware of any of this, but is it possible that this guy kind of used some of these ideas as a jumping off point? Totally it is. It's totally possible. Do we know for a fact? No, we don't. But it is interesting. Just some food for thought. Meanwhile, Amanda has released her full collection online and in stores. And it was the same day that Paige announced her sleepwear. which I thought was weird. Why would they do it on the same day? I don't know. It was both on the same day. Like they're both releasing on the same day. I thought that was odd. Maybe they think it's a good thing. I don't know. Or maybe they didn't coordinate, because I kind of think it's not a good idea. Like I feel like Paige's is going to overshadow Amanda's. So I don't know. It's kind of not good. I think they need to communicate. Okay. Deliberate, I don't know. I doubt it. This is the end of part 1 of a 2-part Bravo Weekly News episode. Stay tuned for part 2. Check back in your feed. Thanks for listening, everyone. Your support really means everything to me, and this show wouldn't be possible without you, the listeners. So please, if you enjoy the podcast, leave a 5-star rating and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. For more, you can join my Patreon, patreon.com/Bravo and And for $5 a month, you'll get 4 extra podcast episodes a month. You'll also get early releases of Bravo Paper episodes and more. Please also subscribe to my YouTube channel at The Bravo Papers and follow me on Twitter, Instagram, at Bravo and Botox and at The Bravo Papers. If you'd like to buy me a coffee, you can at buymeacoffee.com/Bravo and Botox. You know, send your love through some much needed caffeine. And any guest that was on today's episode will be in the show notes, all their social media and contact information. So thank you so much, everyone. Keep overanalyzing Bravo.